All right, well, happily, I was wrong. Ryan Weathers evidently still stinks. First outing with the Marlins against the Rangers, he gets shelled, and then tonight doesn't even make it through 4 innings, walks a bunch of guys. I think he had 5 walks. Obviously, Ha-Seong Kim with a big grand slam, but that was set up by a lot of walks from Ryan Weathers. So thank you, Ryan, for helping out the Padres this year. Thank you so much for that. I said before the game, must-sweep series in my opinion, and so they win game 1. That's just 1/3 of this, right? You got to win tomorrow, win the next day, because I don't think winning this series does a whole lot for the Padres. You gain 1 game on the Marlins in these 3 games instead of gaining 3 on them. Like, that's a big difference, and I know the Marlins aren't in a playoff spot, but they very well could be, and entering today, they were just 1 game out, so they're right there in that race. If the Padres sweep the Marlins, I think that Padres fans are going to start thinking, okay, well, maybe something's here. The opportunity at least to go on a run and get back into this is there. But as of now, just because they win this game and they had a good offensive night, that doesn't change anything for me. It's 1 game. We've seen it so many times this season. We haven't really seen them dominate against a former Padre, but we've seen it before where they've had a big offensive night, but then what do they do after that? Do they follow it up with another great offensive night and then another great offensive night, right? Like, they just haven't really been able to do that much this season. They've won 3 games in a row, but then what happens after that? So it's not even really about what happens in this series. It's what can they do the rest of the season? What can they do in this next week? What can they do the rest of the series and then in Milwaukee? What can they do on the road trip, Like, they're in such a big hole that it's not just a 1 series thing. It's just they have to have a great first series to build that and start getting on a run, right? In order to have a run, you have to start somewhere, and this could be the start, but I still don't believe in the team. Thankfully, the Padres had that grand slam from Kim because maybe that play at the plate would have been big because the Padres had a 1-0 lead at the time, Manny with the sac fly to left, and there was a blocking the plate call. And I'll talk about this more on the show, obviously, tomorrow, probably in the morning. But what is the blocking the plate rule? Like, I think umpires have a different definition. The guys in the replay center, they think it's something. The person at home plate probably thinks it's something else. The fans probably think it's something else. Like, Tatis doesn't get the benefit of the blocking the plate rule, and I still think it was probably a bad send, or maybe Tatis ran through a stop sign. I forget if Matt Williams threw up the stop sign, but let's say Tatis didn't run through it. It was just a bad send by Matt Williams, and that has happened this year. Okay, bad send. But still, if Gary Sanchez is going to get called for blocking the plate earlier in the year on the same thing, the guy's running down the line, and there's no path for him to go into home plate, but Gary's just going to go catch the ball, and this is what the Marlins catcher was doing. I think this was probably the right call, not blocking the plate, but there has to be consistency with it. If that's not blocking the plate, then Gary earlier in the year, I think it was twice, earlier in the year, that should not be blocking the plate either. So just what is the rule? I want a clear definition of what the rule is. I want a demonstration by the umpires. Send us out a video of what blocking the plate is and what it isn't, because I think fans don't know what the rule is, including myself, including someone like Bob Scanlon, who was saying some stuff on social media as well. People are just confused about what the heck this freaking rule is, And so, again, good thing that Kim had the grand slam and Manny had a home run and they built on the lead, because that might have been a crucial run there that the Padres end up not getting because the Marlins did score 2 runs in this game. Josh Hader, he ends up not closing the game out. Michael Walker pitched tremendously well, by the way, I think. Ever since he came off the IL, he's been pitching really good. I think 1 earned run in total. So solid performance out of Walker. I really like the pitching matchups going into this series, the first 2 games at least. Walker and Snell. Now, that was before I saw that Weathers was starting game 1, and then I was like, oh, well, of course he's going to dominate the Padres, but thankfully I was wrong in that. And so whoever had faith in the Padres offense going up against Ryan Weathers, props to you. You're better than me. I'm glad that they got the win, obviously. But again, at the end of the day, it's 1 win. What are they going to do after that? That's the big thing for me.